we stopped at the coding part. So I will ask you his or her screen. So yes, please. So Aziz, please share your screen.
So I hope it's.
But before I mean we start. Your model is working, or you have some errors?
Yeah, I had two minor errors. One is
No, but in this case, we want someone who has some errors.
Okay, okay, no problem.
But go ahead, show us your model. We can have just a first idea, and then about what you had, and then we can move to a second model where we have some errors.
Okay, should I run in the model?
No. Just share the screen, the GUMS code.
Okay.
And we'll go through it.
I hope everybody is seeing my screen.
No, not yet. You have to select the GUMS code.
Yes. I don't know what's wrong. Just a moment, please. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the variables. Okay, then down the parameters. That's fine. Equations. Just a second. Hold on. The equations. So there is an error here. So does anybody have an idea about the error that we have here in the equations? Does anyone have any suggestion, any comment? It's in the equations part.
NO.
Sorry?
Why? The supply equation. First one.
No, Samir, we can't hear you well.
Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the display equation.
No, it's not clear at all. We can't hear you. Perhaps write in the chat box, and if anyone else you have any idea about the potential problem that we have. So the supply equation, no, the supply equation is correct. No, this one is correct. Supply equation is correct. What else? What do you think?
Don't see. I ran my program and everything.
Yeah. Now it will be fine, but once you run any simulation, it will not be correct.
I see.
So, and that's actually a very important point, because my model might be running without any infeasible if I don't include a simulation. But once I include a simulation, I will find that the model is not working well. So what other suggestions?
I'm just guessing, but I think that's very minor. If we should inverse, income should be on the left, and
no.
That's fine.
This the left hand side and the right hand side does not change anything.
Okay.
So Shaima is saying E should be capital or small, because GUMS is not case sensitive. So even if we include capital or small letters for GUMS, it's the same. What else?
And income, I think in income, in the income equation, it should be capital supply, labor supply,
Exactly. That's
KS
the
and
error.
LS.
or it is the same?
No, it's not the same because K and L represent capital demand and labor demand. Despite the fact that capital demand is equal to capital supply and labor demand is equal to capital supply, from an accounting perspective, it will be the same. But from an economic perspective, it will not be the same. And that's why we have to have here in the income equation,
Mhm.
Aziz, KS and LS.
LS.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Down, please.
Yes.
Great. And see that the main problem would have come from what? From the fact that Aziz is calibrating income as a function of LS and KS, but the equation has been declared as a function of K and L. And this is a source of infeasibility.
Okay.
Is that clear? Down,
Can you
please.
repeat, please?
Yes, again. Great. So please run the model now.
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, yes.
No
That's fine.
problem with that.
So now,
So
just a second. So hold on. So what we obtained here. No. Please back to the first dialog box. No,
the
not
compilation.
this one. The other dialog box. Yes,
This
one.
one.
Yes. So as you can see here, Gams is saying that iter represents the number of iterations. Okay, and then in feasibility, it appears when the right hand side is not equal to the left hand side. This means that now the model is not correctly working because no, Aziz, please down. Yes,
Down?
just hold on. Yes, thank you. So given the fact that we don't have a simulation, our infeasibility must be equal to 0.
0.
And now the infeasibility is not equal to 0. The infeasibility is equal to 8.38 to the power 10 multiplied by 10, which
10.
which means that we have an infeasibility, and this means that despite the fact that the code is working, but the model is not in equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
This is in general the source of error that is really time consuming. So we have to go back to the model and check 3 things. Check the equations, check the calibration, and check the data. So please up there, yes, we start with the variables, parameters, okay, it's fine. Down to the equations, please, Aziz.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so hold on. So we have y that's equal to AK alpha L1 minus alpha, KR alpha PY, LW1 minus alpha PY, income, LSKS. Okay. So the model here is correct.
Correct, I guess. Yeah, maybe the calibration part.
Yes, we'll look at the calibration now. Yes.
Ah.
What is the error here? So the error is in the calibration.
Uh-huh.
So I will let you check the calibration. All, please look at the code of Aziz, because really, I mean, what we're doing now is very important, because this will help you identify the different sources of errors from a practical perspective. So what is the error that we have here? It's in the calibration part.
Right.
In A, the parentheses.
A is missing a bracket, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So as Jala said, A is missing a bracket. So practically, Aziz, please stop share your screen for a second. I want to write something.
Yeah.
So in general,
like this,
what Aziz was writing was, in theory, what we must have, it must be A is equal to Y over K alpha L 1 minus alpha, right?
I
What
forgot.
Aziz was writing was A equal to Y over K alpha multiplied by L 1 minus alpha.
Yep.
So the absence of the bracket will lead to this. And this is inconsistent with what we have in the equations and from a theoretical perspective.
Yeah.
So I will stop share. Aziz, please share your screen again. So we have to add a bracket before the K and after the 1 minus alpha. Exactly. Run the model again. So the invisibility decreased, but we still have an invisibility. So close the model. We have to go check again. So R is equal to 1, P is equal to 1, W is equal to 1, KO4, LO6, KO, LO. Down, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
We don't have RL.
We don't have
RL.
yes, but in theory, this will not change anything because by definition, so please add it, Aziz. You have to write that R dot L is equal to R O. Okay. But in general, if we do not impose a condition on the model, automatically it will be considered as an endogenous variable. So though the variables that are not declared as exogenous are by definition assumed to be endogenous. What else? Please go back again to the model, please.
Yes. The equations.
No, down for the model, the equations themselves.
The
Yes.
equation. So I guess everything is fine.
Okay, run. Let's see what we'll have.
Oh, yeah, now the invisibility is 0.
Yes. So now the invisibility is 0. As you can see, now it's 0.000, okay? But actually it's weird because in general, if we do not declare a variable that is endogenous, it's automatically included as an endogenous variable. But I don't know why here it resolved your invisibility. But in any case, as you can see here in this dialog box, we have 0.0 as invisibility because we don't have a shock. And if we don't have a shock, the invisibility must be 0. In real model, it's never perfectly 0 like this. It's in general 8 multiplied by 10 to the power negative 13, negative 14, negative 10, and so on.
But it's negligible.
The threshold that we accept is that it will be 10 to the power negative 10, because this means that we have a number with 10 decimals and then some positive figures. Okay, and what GUMS do GUMS runs some iterations in order to to attain a new equilibrium. And that's here what we have as iter, which represents the number of iterations that we have. Then at the end, as you can see, the model converges to a feasible solution to a square system, meaning that we managed to resolve the model. Close this box, please, Aziz. Yes. And then, yes, open this file listing and maximize it, please, in order to see the outcome.
Yes.
So as you can see, no, slowly. Back to the beginning, please.
Okay. Okay.
To the beginning
Here.
of the code.
Yes.
The very first line. Yes.
Yes.
So here we have the code itself that Aziz wrote. Down, please, but slowly. Okay.
So he repeated the written code.
Yes, because that's the outcome that includes everything. So we have the variables, the equations, the calibration. Once continue, please. Then the calibration, the initialization, the model, and then some information on the compilation time and so on. And as you can see here, GUMS starts to resolve the model. So what GUMS do, as I said, but please stop, Aziz. What GUMS do, that it will put everything on my left-hand side. So if I have y is equal to ak alpha L1 minus alpha, then it will be written y minus k alpha L1 minus alpha, which is equal to 0. And that's why whenever I don't have any problem in my model, my left-hand side should always be equal to 0. This means that in this case, we're going to have a left-hand side that is equal to 0, meaning that the two sides of the equation are identical. Okay? Whenever my left-hand side is not equal to my right-hand side, GUMS will detect what we call an infez. Infez stands for infeasibility. So go ahead, please, to the end of the model. So that's the resolution of the model itself. And then we have, after this, as you can see, given the fact that all the numbers that we have are negative inf plus inf, meaning that it's a number with its limits, negative infinity and plus infinity. And then, no, stop, please, up.
Up, okay.
Yes. Again. So we have here, again, up, please.
Yes.
Yes, here. Here we have, no, slightly down.
Down, okay.
So we have the model statistics where everything is mentioned, that I have 11 variables, 8 equations, the single variables are 11. And then as you can see at the end here, we have the single unfixed variables. Single unfixed variables are the number of endogenous variables. And we have to make sure that the number of endogenous variables is equal to the single equations. And then at the end of this sheet that we obtain, go ahead, Aziz. Down, please, down. Here, given the fact that we don't have a solution, we don't have a simulation, so currently they are fixed as points. And then we have here the variables, please down. As you can see, please stop. As you can see, for all the endogenous variables, they have a lower limit and an upper limit of negative infinity and plus infinity, which means that this variable, once we have a shock, will change. But for all exogenous variables, they don't have a lower limit and an upper limit. So they are fixed at the value that we impose in the base here. Okay?
Like K and L, we impose them.
Exactly. Down, please. And that's it. So here I have report summary, 0 infeasible, 0 dependent. Dependent means that my left-hand side is not depending on my right-hand side, because if there is a dependency, GUMS might not be able to find a solution. And the errors are in general if I'm dividing by 0, or because if I divide by 0, it will be indefinite. Okay? So that's the idea of the model. So Aziz, please stop sharing your screen. Which model is who has a model that's not working and would like to share it with us?
Yes, sir. Me, I think I have a problem in my PC because when I took run, there is various problem error.
So please share your screen.
Okay. Je sais pas comment. I don't know how.
You will find, vous allez voir à la fin de l'écran, il y a Share Screen, un bouton vert, vous appuyez dessus.
Ok.
Et puis vous allez choisir le code GAMS. Et puis appuyez sur le bouton bleu Share.
D'accord. It's okay?
Voilà, yes.
Okay.
So let's go through the model. Now I will invite, given that Muhammad has a working model, so Muhammad, please comment on the model of Maisa.
Okay.
Your mic is working?
Yes.
No, no,
Me-
not Maisa, Muhammad.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So please
can you,
comment on the model of Maisa before we run it.
Can you scroll down slowly?
Please stop, Maisa. We have to comment now because there are certain errors here.
Are those square brackets on the supply equation?
Sorry?
Are those square brackets on the supply?
So these brackets, Maisa, are not correct. And you're inserting them everywhere.
You
So
have to
remove them.
Yeah, you have to, and plus you have to insert normal parentheses and not squared one.
Yes.
If I
Everywhere.
can comment also, Leon shouldn't be an equation.
No, 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 no. Maisa, please add the bracket before the one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
These brackets, we need them.
One.
Yes, add the bracket here. Yes, and at the end. And then you have to remove all these square brackets in the code.
Shahir, je pense equal majuscule, ne pas minuscule, non?
The same, no?
It doesn't change.
D'accord.
Alpha. Yeah. There is some problem here.
No, I mean in the second line, in the third line, in the fourth line, everywhere, you have to remove these brackets. And then a second comment, and perhaps until you correct this, you try to run it, we can check another code. You're inserting an equation for Leon, and we don't have an equation for Leon.
Where is it?
See here in the equations list, you have Leon equation.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a variable. It's a variable, not an equation.
Exactly. Okay. So you still have in the total income equation a square bracket that you have to remove.
Yes.
And you have a missing bracket
here?
Before the one in the third line in the label
Label,
demand function.
label,
Yes.
Yeah. Before the one, yes.
Then down, please. Muhammad, please continue. Here there are a lot of errors.
Okay.
Muhammad, what do you think?
Okay, let me compare my code because
No need to compare to your code. You have to detect the error on your own.
sorry. No. Okay, let me check again.
So please check the calibration because there are several errors in the calibration.
Well, the income part is incorrect. The equation for the W and yeah, there should be a multiplication between W and LSO,
Exactly.
not a addition.
So
And
that's
then
the first error. What else?
There is also the rev and ink.
oh yeah, the
interchangeably.
discrepancy, yes.
So Maisa, you have to correct here in the calibration 3 things. First, you have to use ink O instead of rev O because you declared it up there ink O. Exactly. So it has to be ink O. That's one. Two, you have to multiply WO by LSO. Here you're having a summation. Finally, you have also a square bracket that you have to remove in the calibration. Exactly. Exactly. Down, please. So run.
Yeah, there is think but.
So here we have, as you can see, GUMS has two types of errors. Here we have syntax errors, meaning that some errors are declared in red, and we direct me to the error. So here we have y is equal a multiplied by k to the power alpha multiplied by l to the power 1 minus alpha. And the comment that we have here, it's an unknown symbol. So there is a variable that was not declared in GUMS, and we have to check whether the parameter alpha was declared. So you have to check upstairs. Yes, stop please. So see here, you have a you wrote the parameter AP exactly. Run once again. Yes. So now we have less errors. Click on this one. So we're told that we have an unrecognizable item. What do you think?
Maybe the P wasn't declared.
No.
One minus should be multiplied by.
So we have to multiply 1 minus alpha. Yes, exactly. Run again, Maisa, please. No. This is not an error. Yes. So now the model, there are no syntax errors, but there is still invisibility, as you can see. So the invisibility here is 8.4. So close, please, this window. And then back to the model, we have to check the calibration and up, please. Yes. So let's check the model. Slowly. Yes, what's the error? We have an error in the equations.
It is held by y.
Sorry?
mark in the
demand equation. R should be in the
Go
other.
ahead, please.
Capital demand, I think.
Oui, Shahir, capital demand.
It's R by K.
Exactly. So here we must have a bracket before the alpha and after the y, and before the alpha, and the same for exactly. So still there is an invisibility clause.
In good market equilibrium, it should start income or
No, we can't hear you.
still or then I would
So,
check.
no, Muhammad, the problem here, adding a bracket will in the supply equation will not really solve the problem because we don't need an extra bracket. The only bracket that we need is the 1 minus alpha.
Dr. Shahir, I think the equation of capital demand was R by K equals E and then the rest.
Yes, but
And
here it's
same for
divided.
also
calibration process, the third row.
So we can check down the calibration.
Third wage rate.
Sorry?
In the calibration process, the third row, wage rate.
But the wage is equal to 1.
But it's capitalized.
and again there is an R in the goods demand. It's not R.
It's ink.
So that's the
It
problem.
should be ink.
No, up there, Maisa. In the good demand function.
It's ink.
In the good, yes, it's not R. It's ink.
Yes.
And rerun.
So it's the same fault, this ink and revenue thing.
So now the invisibility decreased, but still we have an invisibility, which is incorrect.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's the initialization part.
we can check. We're still checking the calibration. It's fine. Let's check the initialization. So ink L equal ink O, C C O, Y Y O, K K O, L L O, R R O, W W P, L S and K S. There was something in the chat box.
There is a missing point virgule just before model.
No, this will not.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
Okay.
Mahmoud, you're saying GAMS is not capital sensitive. Curly bracket. Alpha has curly brackets. Oh, okay. Oh, please, Maisa. Yes. again.
About how INCO is written, sometimes in majuscule, sometimes in minuscule.
It's the same, I
Uh,
think.
we can't really hear very well. So scroll down, please, Maisa.
Down.
Down, please, down again. So supply y is equal a k alpha L1 minus alpha. K is equal to alpha multiplied by p multiplied by y divided by r. L1 minus alpha p, okay. Income W LS plus R KS. Income is equal to E multiplied by PC. Labor supply, capital supply and capital demand. Okay.
Shahir, je pense au niveau des calibrages, il y a l'espace au niveau du égal.
No, this
No.
does not affect the analysis.
D'accord.
RPW. Down, please. Income.
Maybe in the equation of income, we need parentheses.
No, no need, because
No.
we know that here the plus is, I mean, is calculated as a plus. It's not the plus just between the two variables that we have.
Okay, okay.
EOYO. Yes, there is an error here. What is the error that we have?
Parenthèse seulement pour alpha, ne pas tout.
Which
Yes.
one?
No.
Non, parenthèse entre alpha seulement.
Ici?
Oui.
No.
Je
No,
pense.
actually, the error comes from the fact that
Alpha.
We need
the
to add one more bracket, not to remove the one that was there, right?
Either to remove a bracket or to add a bracket. But to make it simpler, we have to remove a bracket, because the more we have brackets, the more we have some errors in the coding. So please remove the bracket, one of the brackets before the K exactly, and then remove the bracket. No, keep this one. Then remove the bracket after the alpha.
After, oui, yes.
After the alpha, please remove the bracket exactly.
Oh, oui.
And then remove the bracket before the L, then add the bracket exactly. Run now.
Yes.
And now the model is correctly working. Is this clear?
Yes. Yes.
Any questions? Anything that's not clear?
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've seen two models and how we can correct. Maisa, please stop sharing your screen. Okay. Now what we will do, I will show you a code that we can use in order to extract the results. And then we're going to run a simulation and start analyze the results of this simulation. So I will send you the code in the chat box. You can then automatically, copy and paste it in your code just to save time. And then we will run a simulation and start to analyze its outcome.
And
so we start a new file, right?
No, not a new file. We're still in the same file.
Same.
Yes.
This code will add it at the end of our code.
I will send you a code that you will add at the end of the file that you currently have.
Yeah, and this code is used in order to write the results in a Excel format, so that we can read them very well.
Yes, exactly. So I will send you this now. it will be missing because I think I reached the maximum I can send, the maximum number of characters I can send in the chat box. So please copy it and paste it in your code, starting the word parameters. And I will go through this with you now.
And we should click on solve right after, or we just copy?
No, no, no. You will just copy and paste now, and then I want to go through the code first with you to explain what does this mean, and then you will have to add an extra line. So in general, this part we put it, as you can see here in my screen, in order to one of the methods. There are other methods that are more advanced, but I'm presenting the basic version to understand the GUMS code. So here we have, we declare a set of parameters. These parameters represent the growth rate of each variable, okay? So they represent the growth rate of each variable calculated based on the difference between the variable after dissimulation and the base year. So I declare these variables as kvar, lvar, lsvar, so to show the variation. And then I calculate a formula where my kvar is equal to 100 multiplied by the new variable after I shocked it minus the variable of the base year with respect to the variable of the base year. So in each line, we have here the growth rate of a certain variable, okay? And then once I do this for all the formulas, I just have to make sure that the name of the variables I'm writing here is identical to the name of the variables I wrote before. And then I mention that we have the file, the name of the file is results, its format is Excel, the number of decimals is 3 decimals. I don't remember what does this PC stand for. I will check and tell you after the break. And then here I'm asking GUMS to put this file in this file called results, 4 columns, a column called variable, and when I put any label between quotation marks, GUMS will insert it as a text, okay? And then, so this first column includes the variable's name, K, L, LS, KS, and so on. Then the second column, we have the values of the base year, KO, LO, LSO, and so on. Then in the level, we have the new value of each variable. So I have the new capital, the new labor supply, the new capital supply, and so on. And finally, we have the variation that shows the growth rate of each variable, okay? So if I want to run my model without this part, I can write here $ on text. So everything, as you can see, will be deactivated. And at the end, I will write $ of text. So this shows that everything between these two parts, okay, will not be read by GUMS. While I'm doing this, I just want to make sure that the first part of my model is working. And if it works, I can then add the part that will extract the results. So now, given the fact that I want this to be included in my code, I will remove the on dollar text and the off dollar, okay, and the off text. It will be activated. So now I think I did not send you the last two lines because I mean I reached the maximum number of characters. So please complete the table, okay, and run the code.
Professor, you didn't stop sharing your screen, I guess. No? Oh, okay.
Sorry, Aziz.
You told us to complete our codes, but you didn't stop sharing your screen. I was wondering.
Yeah, please complete the rest of the table.
Okay.
Dr. Shahir, I have one very minor problem that I don't get the small window where we get a report. Like I get directly a dot list file. I don't get the activity report summary.
No,
I'm not
perhaps
sure.
it's minimized.
It's minimized. Okay. It's minimized.
So if you complete the code, you can now run it and tell me what you get.
Excel sheet in our directory was created.
Exactly. But until now, we did not run any simulation. So we'll see that this Excel sheet does not include any variation because it's still, we did not run any simulation. So if we run the code, okay,
This was the problem I was talking last
because,
time.
yeah, I didn't import the license. So I have just a second. I will add the license because I was updating it.
And Dr. Shahir, sorry, I have one more minor question. How do we change the work directory, the project directory?
You have to create it from the beginning. So I will show you. I'm just saving the license.
Okay.
Just a second. So you have to go back to here, file. Didn't share the screen. So file, and then here you can see open in project directory. In this case, either it will be a new project directory or an existing one. So for instance, if I want to create a new project directory on my desktop, I will write this one, CGE training, okay? And then it will be, sorry, because here I chose an existing one, but I want to create a new one. Sorry. So you see here new project, okay? If you click on this one, then I can choose its location. Let's say I will put it here in my documents, okay? And I will call it CGE training. And this will be my new directory. And as you can see here, it's located in my Dropbox, my documents, CGE project, and so on, CGE training, and so on. And in this case, everything will be automatically included in this
over there. Yeah, because I got the results in the automatically created location. So that's why I was asking. Thank you.
So that's the in this case we have a the model itself with what we'll be using in order to extract the results. So what we want to do now is to extract these results in an Excel sheet and see what we will obtain in terms of the output that we will analyze. Okay? So until I resolve my problem, does anyone have a working one? And that because I don't want to waste the time in importing the license.
I think mine is working because I got the Excel file results.
Share your screen, please.
Oh, sure.
But for me, I didn't get the Excel sheet. I don't know why.
So perhaps we'll look at Jala's one and then back to your problem.
Okay, no problem.
So, Dr. Shahir, what would you like me to maximize?
So please, no, to the listing at the end. Yes, I know. It's at the back here. We want the window at the back. Yes.
This one?
Yes. At the end, please.
Sure.
Scroll down. So it's infeasible, zero infeasibility, which is correct. Down, please. Scroll down again.
I'm sorry. I think that's this is all what we have for this, no?
Again. No, scroll down again.
I don't have, that's the end of the file. Nothing else.
No, it's not the end. You have.
It's the.
Yes,
oh, sorry.
Continue, please. Within this window, not outside the window.
Okay, I'm trying, but that's the.
Scroll down from the, exactly. Yes, that's it. So as you can see here at the end, we have feasible solution to a square system. And then we have the location of the Excel sheet that where we have the results. So please click on this one.
The file, you mean? Would you like me to share the Excel file?
No, not click on this link. Yes.
Oh, I opened it already. I opened it already.
But you opened it from Excel or from GUMS?
No, I went to the location myself without the clicking on the link.
But did you change the project directory?
Not yet. I didn't.
So please show us the Excel sheet.
Sure, sure.
So as you can see, that's the Excel sheet that is generated by GUMS. So we have the list of the variables, the level of the base year, and then the level, and then the variation, which is 0, given the fact that nothing has changed. Okay. So Aziz, you said that you have a problem.
Yes, GAMS didn't want to open the Excel sheet for a reason, I don't know why.
So please, would you please share your screen?
Okay. I hope everybody is seeing.
Yes. So when you click on this blue link on the last line, yes.
Yes, this one.
No. Wait a second, because there is an error actually. I mean,
okay.
Here we have the table, but we don't have it in. Go back to your code.
Just a second. Where is the? Oh, I lost it somewhere.
No, you closed it instead of closing this window.
Yes, I guess. Just a second. Yes.
So no, I think in general Excel and XLX doesn't change a lot. Up please, scroll up please, Aziz.
Yes. I didn't change.
Down please. Try to run once again.
Okay.
Yes. No. There is a problem in the code of Excel itself, because as you can see here, please move to the left. Move the cursor to the left. As you can see here, open error for put file. So this means that GUMS is not able to open the file Excel, to generate the file and open it. So because if you click
on this link,
so Muhammad is saying that this is an admin privileges.
An admin.
Okay, so what we can no, I don't think it's the XLS extension. It's not in general. GUMS works with the old version or the new version. It doesn't change anything as long as the two formats are included. So in any case, what is assuring is that we have zero invisibility, that the feasible solution to a square system. And then when you click on this, we have the output, but we don't have the Excel sheet, but we have the output, I mean in GUMS, because if you click on it, we will obtain the table where we have exactly the 4 columns that we need. So what we want to do before the break, we want to run a simulation. So Aziz, please stop sharing your screen. And as the simulation that we want to run, in general, we can only run some simulations only on exogenous variables. And here in this case, we have 3 exogenous variables and 2 parameters. The 3 exogenous variables are Ks, Ls, and the price, and the parameters are alpha or A. What kind of simulations we can run? Either we can run a simulation for the parameter A, and this will be like a technological shock, because if we shock the A, this will be a technological progress shock. Or we can shock Ls or Ks or P. P, for instance, will be an increase in oil prices, for instance, or something like this at the world level, and this will lead to an increase in prices of the economy. Or an increase in the labor supply. For instance, we have a migration shock, and in this case, if we have a migration shock, this will lead to an increase in labor supply. Or we have an inflow of FDI, and in this case, capital supply will increase. So before running a simulation in GAMS, what we want to do is to imagine what will be the economic effect of each on each variable. So the first variable, let's imagine that we have an increase in FDI, and the increase in FDI led to an increase in the capital supply. Okay? If this happens, so this means that in this case, capital supply is going to increase, right? If capital supply increases, what will happen? What is the direct effect of this shock?
Y will increase.
No, Y will not increase, because Y increases when capital demand increases. So what is the direct shock of the increase in capital supply?
R decreases.
Sorry?
R decreases.
Exactly, R decreases because R is the price of capital, right? If R decreases, this means that capital is becoming cheaper. And if capital is becoming cheaper, what will happen?
The demand increase for capital.
So capital demand is going to increase. And if capital demand increases, now production will increase. But in order to let production will increase if it has more capital and more demand and more labor, right? So now in theory, if capital demand increases, labor demand also has to increase.
Okay.
But if labor demand increases, but at the same time, labor supply did not increase, because by assumption, labor supply was constant, right? And now labor demand wants to increase, but it cannot increase. So labor demand has to remain constant. And if labor demand increases, but labor supply does not increase, this will be translated into
unemployment,
an increase in wages in order to reach the new equilibrium. Okay? So now we have income. If you remember, income was the weighted average of WLS, right, multiplied by RKS. So in this case, W increased, R decreased, capital supply increased, and labor supply remained constant. So we have wages that increase and capital supply that increases, but one variable that decreases. So at the end, income must increase. And if income increases, this means that if income is equal to the price multiplied by consumption, and price is constant,
then consumption
consumption will increase proportionally to income. And this will lead to the new equilibrium where consumption will increase proportionally to the production. And this is the general equilibrium analysis. So do you understand how we do the analysis for the CGE model. So that's the economic analysis of what we had. And in general, that's what we have to do before we run the simulation, because we have to understand very well the economic definition, or the economic rationale behind the different parts of the model. And then we run the simulation, and we will see that once we do this, the interpretation will be very easy. Okay? So what we'll do now, I will ask Jala to share your screen, please.
Sure.
And we will run the same model using Jala's code. Okay? So the simulation now that we will run, we're still
Oh, sorry. So Dr. Shahid, you're going to put something on the chat that I need to copy?
no, please open the GAMS code.
Oh, I open it? Okay.
Back to initialization. Okay, and then please, as I said, we will declare now the simulation in the initialization part. So let's assume that we will increase capital supply by 20%. So in this case, we will multiply KSO by 1.2. So KSO by 1.2 multiply by 1.2 exactly.
Like this? Okay.
This means that capital supply increases by 20%. So no need to save, because whenever you run the code, it's automatically saved. So now you can run, please. And just a second, now in the dialog box that appears now, we can see that we have an invisibility, correct? The invisibility now is of 1.6. And this is totally normal, because now we have a simulation that will lead to some disequilibrium between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. But GAMS will run several simulations in order to reach a new equilibrium. And that's what we see in the third iteration, here 3. We see that it's 6.6 multiplied by 10 to the power negative 16, which means that we have a new equilibrium. So let's go to the listing before we analyze the results. Okay, Jala, please type up there in the dialog box, in the, yes, this one, type infes, INFES, in order to search for the invisibility. And then click on the icon where you have this capital A, okay,
This
yes,
one?
and search for invisibility. As you can see here, we have an invisibility in the income equation. Once again, please click on it. We have an invisibility in the equilibrium of capital. Click once again. And that's it. Which makes sense, because the variable that has been shocked is capital supply. So whenever we have the capital supply in an equation, we must have an invisibility. So it's normal to have an invisibility in the pre-triangular, meaning before we search for a new equilibrium. But once we're searching for a new equilibrium, we must have zero invisibility. And that's what we have in the third iteration here. Okay.
So why is it still showing in the listing if it already found?
No, because here that's the solving of the initial solving of the model.
Okay, so it puts down all the trials.
Not so of all the trials, but because given the fact that the model was working without a shock, without any invisibility, okay. But then once we introduce the invisibility, GAMS wants to tell me where the disequilibrium took place because of the simulation. And based on this, it will try to search for a new equilibrium.
Okay.
Then go back to this Jala basic model dialog box, the other one.
This
No,
one?
the other where we have the invisibility.
Yeah.
Here in pre-triangular equation and post-triangular equation.
I'm sorry, Dr. Shaheen. I'm
No,
not sure what to
in
look
the very
at.
first, where you have the feasible solution to a square system.
Oh, here you mean?
Yes. Scroll down, please.
Would you like me to maximize it a bit?
Just scroll down and click on the Excel file. Exactly. Great. Okay.
Would you like me to open it?
No, that's fine. We can analyze it from here. So as you
Okay.
can see here, we have now the numbers calculated through the model. So we have now we will go by turn. So I will ask each one of you to interpret part of the model. So we can start with Mahmoud. So the initial shock was, what was the initial shock? Mahmoud? No, just anything you have in mind. What was the initial shock? We cannot hear you. So what was the initial shock that we have? The shock that we introduced, I mean?
Capital supply.
So an increase in capital supply. And what's the direct effect of that? So as you can see here, capital supply increased by 20%. And so that's why the number that we have here is 20. Okay? So Fuad, if capital supply increases, what is the direct effect of that? Fuad, what is the direct effect of the increase in capital supply?
Sorry, there are many effects on the
No, just the direct effect.
Huh? Sorry?
Just the direct effect.
Yes, there is a direct effect on the income, and also in
no, income is an indirect effect. The direct effect, if capital supply increases, what happens? What do you think, Rania?
Decrease.
Sorry?
R decrease.
And as you can see here, R decreases by 10%.
-10.
Exactly, and that's the second thing that we have here in this table. Hajar, if R decreases, what will happen?
R, c'est-à-dire demande, non?
No, R is the capital rent.
Ah, d'accord. Donc, demande augmente, non?
Exactly, and that's what we see in the first line. Capital demand will increase proportionally to the capital supply by 20%. Okay?
Okay.
Mahmoud Arboush, what's the effect? What's the other effect after that? What do you think? Mahmoud? Okay. Kinza? Any insights?
Increase in revenue.
Kinza, do you hear us? Okay, Aziz?
Yes. So after that, we are going to have an increase in consumption.
No, before the increase in consumption.
And
increases
in wages.
Exactly. So in this case,
why?
If R decreases, so capital demand will increase, and we know that in order to increase the production, we need more labor.
labor.
But labor, as you can see here, LS is assumed to be constant, and here it's 0. So LS, the variation of LS is 0, which makes the labor demand also its variation 0. So that's why wage is going to increase by 7.5%. So if we combine the increase in wages with the decrease in rent and the increase in capital supply and the fact that labor supply is constant, we will have income that increases by 7.5% in net terms. And the increase in income by 7.5% will lead to an increase in consumption proportionally by 7.5% because prices are constant. And at the end, production will increase by 7.5%. So that's exactly the initial analysis that we have, but here in numerical terms. Okay. Any question in this part? So Jala, please stop sharing your screen. Thank you.
Okay.
Any question on this part? Anything that's not clear?
Dr. Shahir, I had a question on the solve command that we put the solve basic using CNS.
Yes.
What does this mean? I mean
you mean the CNS itself?
Yes, yes. What does it mean, the
CNS means the solver type that we will choose. And in general, we have several solvers in order to resolve the model. So we have, for instance, nonlinear programming, NLP, a CNS constrained nonlinear system, and so on. We have a lot of solvers, and in this case, it depends on the model structure that we choose. But the most used solvers are either CNS or NLP.
Okay. And when do we choose each one of them?
It depends on the
on the mod
you have in your system. So if you have a lot of nonlinear equations, so in this case it's better to choose the nonlinear programming, NLP.
Okay.
If you have a lot of constraints, then you use CNS.
Okay, thank you.
So Mahmoud, okay, this question was answered because yes, labor supplies are considered to be constant. It does not change. Other questions on what we have done so far? So just to summarize what we have done so far. So we have seen the micro and macro elements that we need for GUMS or for CGE modeling, then some rules for GUMS. Then we have seen how to write a simple basic code in GUMS. And adding to this, we started also to do three things. So first, to detect the different types of errors that we have. And we have seen that we have mainly two types of errors, either the syntax errors or so either the syntax errors or the infeasibility or the errors that are related to the equations, to the calibration, and so on. In general, the syntax errors are very easy to detect because GUMS will generate a red line that automatically direct me to this code. And finally, we have seen how we can run a simulation by shocking the exogenous variables, and how we can run the simulation in GUMS, and how we can interpret it from an economic perspective. Okay? Clearly, what we can do, we can run several simulations and compare the effect of different simulations. So for instance, I can also shock labor supply and compare the increase in labor supply with the increase in capital supply, perhaps combine them and see what happens. And that's why whenever you will write your own papers, you will be able to compare the outcome of different simulations and combine different simulations together. Okay? Any questions?
I need to ask a question about the Excel output. I don't understand just the point PC and point NG when we write file results point XLS, which mean Excel, then results point PC, then results point NG. I don't understand. This is the dimension or
No,
what?
please ask again. I didn't hear well.
I ask about the Excel output. When we
Yes.
write the code, we
Yes.
write results point PC and results point NG equal
Yes.
to entry. I
For
don't understand what we mean exactly with this code.
so to extract the result, to extract the table in an Excel file, I'm just telling GUMS what is the number of decimals that I need in GUMS. So that's ND, okay.
Okay, okay.
For the PC, I have to check. I completely forgot this part, so I will check and tell you right after the break.
Okay, thank
But ND is the number of decimals.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so now what we'll do, actually I was about to do what Shaima is suggesting, so I will send to Ramaj now the code that we were using, okay, but it's the correct version and the complete version, and then we will build on this old model. So now we'll be working on a new model. The first one is basic, the second one is called simple. And yes, Muhammad, probably what you didn't include a simulation because you have to multiply your exogenous variable by a certain factor in order to simulate one of the exogenous variables. Okay, so I will send to Ramaj the code now. We will resume in 15 minutes with the code with the code I will send you. But keep your own code because this will represent your own efforts, and then you will be able to compare the correct code with your own code, and then we will build the new model on the version I will send you. Okay? So I will send it right now, and and then we'll start in exactly 15 minutes. No, Aziz, the simulation that we run was an increase in capital supply, not in labor supply. Okay. So you have,
Yes.
Muhammad, you have to multiply your capital supply by 1.2.
In the initialization part.
Exactly. Okay, so we'll stop now and we'll convene in 15 minutes with the new model. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, let's start. So now I think you received the code that Ramesh sent. Any questions on the first part before we start the new model?
Professor, I did a little research about the result point PC. Someone asked about it.
No, say it again, please.
About the comment result point PC in the.
Oh, you mean in the put table? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I didn't have time to check, so I will do it and send you an email today.
Yes, well, I did check on it.
Oh, okay, and what does it stand for?
It's just a little command for print control. PC stands for print control. And it's basically to say to GAMS that he should also put spaces in the Excel format.
Okay. I completely forgot it. So good that you you reminded this. You searched for it and you told us about it. Thank you, Aziz.
No problem.
Other questions, comments? Anything that's not clear in the code that you received in the simulation that we did? Because you will see that the process is very cumulative. So, I mean, you have to understand everything in the first one to make sure that everything that we'll do later in the second model and in the third model, where we will introduce the government and the rest of the world, is clear. So any questions? Okay, so if you don't have more questions, we can now move to the next model. And the difference in this case, I remind you that that was the initial model that we had, where we had 8 equations and 11 variables with 3 exogenous variables and 8 endogenous variables. That was the initial model. Now the next model that we'll call simple, the only change that we'll have is that we'll now have a Cobb-Douglas production function. Nothing has changed. A closed economy, nothing has changed. 2 factors of production, 2 goods. Then we have a perfect mobility of labor and capital between sectors, one rent and 1 wage, no savings, and equilibrium in labor, capital, and goods market. So from what we have here, what's the only difference between this model and the previous one?
Here we introduced 2 goods.
Exactly. So now we have 2 goods, not 1 good.
We are going to have a set of goods.
Exactly. So before talking about the GAMS code, we have first to see what the model will look like. So as you can see here, now we will add an index I to all the variables. This means that, for instance, equation number 1, we will read it once for the agricultural sector and once for the industrial sector. And then all the equations where we have an index I means that this equation will be counted twice because now we're having 2 sectors. Okay? So that's why introducing a second sector will help us examine to what extent a shock will have a differential impact on agriculture versus industry, and to what extent, for instance, labor demand, consumption, production, everything will be changed at the sectoral level. So equation 1, 2, and 3, their mathematical form didn't change, but we have an index I because we have 2 sectors. Equation 4 didn't change because we still have 1 labor and 1 capital, given the fact that labor and capital are mobile between the 2 sectors. Equation 5 that represents the demand has an index I because now we have 2 goods and we're going to demand 2 goods. And that's why we must now have a parameter beta I, that represents the share of consumption of each good, because we can define beta as PI multiplied by CI divided by the revenue. Okay? And then the final block, which is the equilibrium block. So you must have the supply and the demand of each good must be equal to each other. So Yi is equal to Ci, that's one. And then the sum of the labor demand of all sectors must be equal to the total labor supply. And the same for the sum of the capital demand of all the goods must be equal to the total capital supply that we have in the economy. So in all, how many equations do we have? What do you think?
It's 16.
No.
No. I mean,
No. 15 actually.
15. Yeah.
No.
So let's
7.
count them. So for equation 1, we have two equations. Plus 2, 4, plus 2, 6, plus 1, 7, plus 2, 9, plus 2,
11,
11, plus 2,
13, and 15.
15, wait.
Sorry?
15.
15 equation.
So here we have 2,
30.
2, 2, 1,
The last two equations, 1.
2, 2, 1, and 1.
30.
So it means that we have 13 equations, right?
13.
13, not 15.
Yes.
Because here we have a summation sign. And the summation sign means that we have just one equation because the total supply is equal to the total demand. Okay, so now we have 13 equations. Let's count the number of variables. So we have the same variables, Y, K, L, W, R, revenue. We have the price, we have the consumption, we have capital supply, we have labor supply, and we have Léon. Okay?
But most of them are indexed already.
Yes, that's what we do now. So we have
Okay.
2,
2,
2, 2, 1, 1, and we assume here that we have a capital, perfect capital mobility and perfect labor mobility. That's why we have just one wage and one capital rent. We have one revenue. We have one or two prices.
2 prices.
2 prices, exactly. We have 2 consumptions, 1 capital supply, 1 labor supply, and 1 Léon. So what's the total number of the variables that we have?
16.
So
16.
we have 16. So
16.
2, and here we have 6, plus 2, 8, plus 1, 9, plus 4, 13, plus 3, 16. We have
13.
Exactly. So we need exogenous variables, right?
Yes.
Again, we'll have labor supply and capital supply that will be exogenous. And now we will have to choose one price to become exogenous because now we have 2 prices, the price of industry and the price of agriculture. So the price will assume that the price of agriculture will be our numeraire. So only the price of agriculture. Okay? The other price is endogenous and will be determined by the model. So now we have 3 exogenous variables that are labor supply, capital supply, and the price of agriculture will be considered the numeraire of the economy. Any question on the model before we start coding it?
Yes, please. I would like to ask. I didn't grasp why we have chosen the P to be the numeraire.
You mean the price of agriculture?
Yes.
No, it's a choice but we have to justify it. So when we compare the price of industry and the price of agriculture, in general, the price of agricultural goods are more subject to a perfect competition, and firms are more price takers. So that's why we can assume that the price of agriculture is
Okay, thank
the
you.
numeraire.
Thank you.
Other questions? No other questions in general? Okay. So now what we'll do, I will show you the beginning of the code, okay, of this new code. But the most important thing, as we always do in the empirical work, we never overwrite on an old file. So what we'll do, you will open your basic file, okay, that I sent, okay, and then we will write save as, and we will call it too simple, okay. So we will use the same file, but we will append it, okay. So now we have the old file that we have, but we will do the edits that we want in order to make this code, consistent with the model that we want to write. So we will write here second model, GUMS
sorry,
workshop.
can you please repeat what we're supposed to do, because my connection broke?
So we will open the model I sent you, basic.
1_basic, yes.
Yes, and then we do file, save as, and we save it with a new name because we want to make all the edits in the file I sent. So when you do save as, you can write save as and add the new name, which is simple, because now we have the simple model, not the basic one. Okay?
Sure. And we will work on the one you sent that is basic.
Exactly.
So we close the one that we called simple. Right? No?
No, because I don't understand the question.
So we now have 2 copies of them, and we work on the one entitled simple, right?
Yes, you don't have to close anything, because already if you check, simple is open.
Yes. This is what I mean. I mean, we work on simple.
Yes, exactly,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
Let's say hi.
Hi, Hoda.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Not meaning to disturb, just many familiar faces here, so just saying hi.
Hello, Hoda.
Hi, Shahir. How are you? Same here, same here. Okay, I won't disturb anymore. Keep going. Thanks.
Thank you. So so you open the basic file I sent, you save as simple, and then we will do all the edits in this new file called simple.
Okay.
Is that okay for everyone? Any questions? Okay. What we'll do now, I will share my screen with the simple code now, and I write here in the title second model, not first one. Then closed economy with government. Here we don't without government, sorry. 2 factors of production and 2 sectors, because we have now 2 sectors. Okay. But now we want to declare to GUMS that we have a set of sectors. So now the command that we want to add is a command that shows GUMS how we can introduce the sectoral dimension to our model, because we have here 2 sectors. We have the agriculture sector and the industrial sector. So for the agricultural sector, I will call each one of the 2 sectors, agriculture and industry, And the command that we will have is, if you remember what we said during the last lecture, is that we have a command called set. Okay, so I will show you this command. That this will be the beginning of the main changes that we have in our model. So please start to change your model based on that. So now we have set I. Here I'm calling the sector with an index I, okay? And this I will take the value of agriculture and industry. This means that we have two sectors, okay? So that's the first thing that we have to do in order to introduce the sectoral dimension in GUMS. Any question on this? So that's the simple step. For the list of variables, nothing will change, okay, because we have the same variables. But what will have to change in the variables? What do you think? Yes, Leon is not indexed, income is not indexed, consumption is indexed or not?
Yes.
It must be indexed. Y must be indexed. Okay. So now we'll add all the indices where we want. The capital demand, yes. Labor demand, yes. Wages, no. Okay. Because we have a unique wage because of this mobility. We have a unique capital rent because of also capital mobility. Then we have the price that changes by sector, and labor supply and capital supply, they don't change. Okay? So that's the first thing that we have to do. Any questions? Anything that's not clear? Now we have to do exactly the same thing, but with the parameters. Because we have an I, we have an, sorry?
You have to add the semicolon after the sets.
I can't hear you.
You have to add the semicolon here after the set.
Yes. Okay. Then we have to add the i's also to the parameters. So AI, alpha I, income does not change. So it will keep it as it is. Consumption, it will be changed. Production will be changed. Capital demand, yes. Labor demand, yes. Wages, no. Capital rent, no. Price level, yes. Labor supply, no. And capital supply, no. Okay?
And then, Professor, we have to add the beta.
Exactly. That's what we're going to do. So as Aziz said, now we have a missing parameter, which is the beta, because the beta shows how we allocate our consumption. So I will declare a new parameter beta I, and I will call it here share of consumption of good I. Okay, of good I, sorry. Any questions? Anything that's not clear? So can we move on, or shall I keep the screen? Any questions? So if you want me to keep the screen, someone sends in the chat box yes, or otherwise I will move on.
In the financial barometer, I think it is black to me. Share of consumption of good eye still black, like better eye. Not
Sorry?
blue. Why?
No, I can't hear you.
For beta eye. Okay.
No, please write in the chat box so we can't hear you. So now we have to do exactly the same thing for the equations. Okay? So I have to declare the equations that need an index I and those who will not need an index I. So for the supply, it needs an index I. Labor demand, it needs an index I. Capital demand needs an index I. Income, no. Demand function, yes. The capital equilibrium, no. Labor equilibrium, no. And goods equilibrium, yes. Sorry, here for the demand function, we don't need because it's the income. Okay? And now comes the most important part where we will change the code of the old model with we will add an I now. So you will have 10 minutes or no less, it will need less. You will have maximum 5 minutes, 6 minutes to introduce the I where it's needed. Okay? In both the variables and the parameters and the equation names. But please make sure that the parameters that were declared are consistent with the equations list, and the variables that you declared are consistent as well, and the names of the equations are consistent with their mathematical values. So you will have 5 minutes to do this, and we continue with the calibration and the initialization. Is that clear? Any question? That's the list of equations for your reference. So you're done? Any questions? Any queries? Okay.
Dr.
write
Shahir, can I
small I?
ask a question?
So just to answer Mohib's question, I mean either a small I or capital I as you wish. So it doesn't change because GAMS is not capital sensitive. So what's more convenient for you? Jala, what's your question?
I wanted to ask about the demand function. Maybe I missed something, but you've said that we don't add I, and I think
No, we
we
do.
add it, right?
Yes,
we
do.
add it with the beta, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because it's the revenue that is not indexed, but the price and the
But
consumption are indexed.
So we add an I in the demand function
Yes.
first, and then we correct. Okay.
So I think I'm done.
So we'll just wait 2 minutes to let everyone finish.
No problem.
So let's see. Let's take, for instance, who didn't share his or her screen first? Percent, would you please share your screen?
Yes,
And then Mahmoud, is it Mahmoud Arboush? Because I know we have two Mahmoud. So Mahmoud Arboush or Mahmoud Abd Gawad. Okay, so Percent will share first and then Mahmoud Abd Gawad. So we have, so please, now what we'll do, we'll have a peer review. So someone will review the code of Percent. Rania, would you please review the code of Percent? So unmute yourself, please, Rania, and tell us which parts are correct and which parts are not correct.
Okay. Okay, I just see.
So now we're reviewing.
Yes, the supply, I think, firstly, equations also should be function the E. For example, we see supply the I, and here supply just 2 points.
Exactly. That's the first thing. Perfect.
What
So
is it?
here, Percent, you have to add before the 2 dots, the index I as well, as Rania said.
Before.
Okay. Yes.
Exactly. And you do this for all equations. Great. What else, Rania?
I need just to verify. I think GA, the last one, GA.
Yes.
On function the E. He.
Exactly.
The last one. Yes. Also in equations.
Yes.
When you define equation.
And the G demand as well. And for the G demand, we need the I.
Yes, G demand also.
Okay, what else? Is there anything missing?
Yes, beta, I didn't see something. For example, he didn't use beta the E in the income function.
Exactly. So we have to multiply in the G demand
Yes.
You have to multiply the income by beta I.
Yes. Yes. Just to multiply it, and what else?
But here we
need to
between
make
the beta
some-
and I, please, yes, remove the space. Exactly.
Yes, and in the QS equal to the supply of capital equal to I think here we need to add some E.
Perfect.
E.
And that's the new part.
Sum.
Yes,
We
we
need
have to add the sum exactly.
Sum is
which equation?
I don't.
I will send you this in the chat box. So in this case,
Yes,
capital supply must be equal to sum.
We need to add sum because we will sum the two capital of two sectors.
Exactly.
And also for the labor equation, we need to add sum before L.
Okay.
Exactly. So Fuad sent it.
Yes.
I don't know if something miss.
So see in the chat box, we need the sum, because now the sum of the labor demand and the sum of the capital demand will be equal to the total capital supply and total labor supply.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. I think it's okay, but maybe something
Okay. Thank you, Pasant. Please stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Fuad, would you please share your screen?
How can I stop sharing my screen? Okay, I found it. Okay.
Yes. Fuad, would you please share yours? Fuad.
Yes.
And Mohib,
okay?
would you please check Fuad's code? No, we're not in the calibration yet. Just the code itself.
Check.
Mohib? Any comment, any improvements?
Maybe for the
Sorry? Okay, so it seems that the code is correct. Aziz, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
In the goods demand, we don't have a sum function, do we?
No, we don't.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
yeah. So when I see it here, I don't.
Right. So Mohib, what do you think?
Yeah, we don't have a sum in. Yeah.
No, why shouldn't we have it?
It's because Fuad put it in the chat box like this, so that's why we copied it.
No, I'm saying why shouldn't we have it here? So
Because
this is incorrect, but why?
Because the two shares are complementary.
Because the two share, that's the conceptual answer, But from GUM's perspective, what would be the error in this case? No, Shana, we can't hear you خالص.
If we sum from one side, we should also have a sum from the other side.
Exactly. And here you have your left-hand side indexed with an I, while your right-hand side does not have an I dimension if I do the summation. So that's why you will, no, you can't do this. That's incorrect. You have to, remove the bracket before beta, exactly. And then remove the sum that you have before the PI along with the index, exactly. And in this case, all the G demand equation will be defined over the index I. Okay?
And I have another question about the two functions of equilibriums where we have the sum functions.
Yes.
If I can, when we use the sum function, should we put the I, comma ki?
Yes.
Yes, we have to put the I before the ki, for instance.
Exactly, because in this case, GUMS will understand that he's going to do the summation over I.
Over I. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Fuad. Please stop sharing your screen. Any question on this part before we go to the next one? Okay, so now we're going to move to the calibration, which is now even more important actually, and where we can have more errors. So what I will do, I will send you in the chat box the values of labor and capital that we need. So Mahmoud is asking, I don't understand why we need to sum. We need to sum because we have one labor supply and one capital supply, and this labor supply will be distributed over different sectors through the labor demand, and the same case for the capital as well. So I have only one capital supply that will be allocated on different sectors and one labor supply that will be allocated on different sectors. So what I will send you now in the chat box are the values of R, P, W, labor demand and capital demand for the two sectors. You will copy and paste this instead of what you have already for capital and labor, and then you will do the calibration on your own. So you will have 10 minutes to do the calibration, and then we will start discussing them. Okay, so I sent you the values in the chat box. Please insert them in your GUMS code and then start changing the calibration with where you want to add the index I. That's one. Two, if we need to calibrate new parameters like beta and how we calibrate it. And finally, if we want to remove any old parameter that we're not using anymore. And then we will check all this in 10 minutes exactly. Okay? So now you have to change the calibration. And given that the 10 minutes, I mean, it's a bit too much, you can also move to the initialization as well, because initialization is very simple. So we'll have time to correct the model, run some simulation, and the last day we keep it for the government and the rest of the world. see what you've done so far. Perhaps now, Mahmoud Abdelgawad, would you please share your screen? And Kenza, would you please check his code? Mahmoud. بص في الاخر يا محمود هتلاقي شاشة خضراء، دوس عليها وبعد ما تدوس عليها هيطلع لك الاختيار بالظبط، دوس اختار جامس. اوكي. So Kenza, would you please check his code? But let's start, yes, in the beginning of the calibration. Kenza, would you please unmute yourself? Okay, Maisa.
Yes.
Yes, would you please check the code of Mahmoud? Whether there are some errors, no errors for the calibration.
I think alpha with A, with an
alpha needs an I, exactly.
And Y.
So everywhere here we need more I's.
Yes.
So for the capital, everywhere we need I. For the rent, no, we don't have an I because we just have one rent.
Yeah. With P.
With the P again, we need I. For the Y, we need I.
With A then?
Yes, so you have, Mahmoud, you have to add the I's everywhere. And another thing, you have to remove the capital and the labor of the old model. You didn't remove them.
Yes.
Yes. So please continue adding the I's everywhere. And then we can check this, and don't forget also to calibrate the beta. Okay. Muhammad, Ahmed, would you please sharing your screen? Yes. So as Aziz said, you will have to add the I's everywhere, whenever needed, not everywhere. Okay. Mahmoud, would you please? Okay. Okay, no worries. Hajar, would you please share your screen? Hajar.
Ok, juste une minute. Comment donc? Oui.
En bas, vous allez trouver un petit écran vert. Vous appuyez dessus.
Et partager.
Voilà. Très bien. Okay, so now who didn't comment? Mahmoud Arbouch, would you please comment the code of Hajar? Mahmoud. Okay, so apparently Mahmoud is not here. Shayma, Wahba, would you please comment the code of Hajar?
Yes. I think the equation of capital KO needs to be two equations, one for agriculture and one for industry?
No, here it's correct because you already inserted the data by sector, so that's fine. And here you mean for when we divide them by rent and wage?
Okay.
But what's missing here in the in the second line after capital?
Yes, there is I missing in
Exactly.
the yes.
So Hajar, you have to add an I after
ici,
the LO. After LO. In the next line.
LO.
Yes.
Ah, d'accord.
Exactly. What else, Shayma?
In the LSO, we have to add the I.
No.
No.
Why?
What we need to do?
Oui.
Use the sum.
Exactly. We have to add the sum. So we have to add the sum before LOI. Sum of I. So bracket. No, without space. Sum bracket. Inside the bracket, inside the bracket I, comma, remove this bracket, and then you close the bracket after the I. And you do the same thing for capital supply. No, but you have to remove this bracket inside the bracket.
Ah, d'accord.
You didn't remove it. Please remove it. Exactly. This one has to be removed. Exactly. And you do the same thing for capital. What else has to be, what do you think? What's missing? What's not missing? What's incorrect?
Beta. We have to insert beta.
Exactly. So first, beta is not inserted, and second, alpha is not calibrated.
Oh yes.
Ah, d'accord. Oui.
So you have to calibrate the alpha, you have to calibrate the beta, and then you have also here when calibrating the A, there is a bracket missing before the K and after the I. Exactly. So Muhammad is saying, is there a space between PO and I? No, not necessarily. Alpha function is missing, yes, beta is missing, and the bracket before the K and after the I. So please, Hajar, complete two things. Yes, before the K.
Ok.
Before, avant le K.
Oui.
Et à la fin.
D'accord.
So please do these changes and then we can check another code. So perhaps we can check the code of Jala. So please stop sharing your screen. And then Ridvan, would you please comment on the code of Jala?
Okay.
Just a second, I'm sharing.
Did I spell it correctly, Ridvan?
Okay.
No, I spelled your name correctly?
Yes.
I'm pronouncing it correctly,
Yes.
sorry?
Good one. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because I
Sorry,
think I'm
for
not.
some reason Zoom cannot see gums. Just a second. So
No,
I will
because
share,
because
I'll share my
you have
whole
to close the
screen.
share. You have to close the share first.
Oh, okay. I still have the same problem, so I'll share my whole screen and sorry.
Okay, so Ridvan, please comment on Jala's code.
Okay,
I didn't add the beta here, and I think it's we need to add it, but I was confused how to add it.
And for the rest, Ridvan, what do you think?
Except for the beta, I'm checking. I can't see any incorrect coding.
You can see, sorry?
I can't see any problem about coding.
Okay. So the only thing is beta. And in general, how we can calculate the beta, actually, here you're doing it indirectly, Jala, I mean, because you have, in this case, to define beta as a function of PO multiplied by CO divided by Inc O. Okay?
Okay.
So you just take the income and divide them here.
And I put it over here? Or
No,
I
not
put
this
it...
one, but you have first to define income as a function of labor supply, capital supply, and wages. So this means that you have to take the labor supply and capital supply that you have at the end of this code. You have to copy and paste them after the capital demand and labor demand. That's one, the first thing that you have to do.
So I put them here?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you define income, Inc O. No, not this one. You introduce a new one.
Another one.
Inc O. That is equal to WO plus LSO. Sorry, multiplied by LSO plus KSO multiplied by RO. And then you add a semicolon. Exactly. And then after this, you calibrate the beta based on the income from what you have at the end here. Exactly.
Okay.
So you'll just say that beta is equal to PO multiplied by CO divided by Inc O. So you see, the order is very important here. I cannot calibrate a parameter unless it has been already declared.
And do I need to add a bracket here before the P?
No need to add the bracket, but you have to remove the I because income does not have an index I.
Okay. And I remove it from here as well?
Definitely. You don't need this line at all.
Okay, right. Because we already.
What's the problem that we still have here in Jala's code? What do you think? What do you think? Any ideas, suggestions? So the beta is correct. At the beginning, have to be defined. No, now it's defined. What else? So now in Jala's code, beta is defined as PO multiplied by CO divided by income. Let's check whether all the variables that are used to calibrate beta are previously defined or not.
Defined, okay.
So PO is defined, income is defined, but consumption is not defined. It's defined at the end.
To move
it has to become, exactly, it has to be inserted. No. What actually,
it has to be
has to come before the beta, right? And consumption is defined as a function of the Y.
So Y has to come first, and then this.
Yeah.
So first Y, then consumption, then beta. So as you can see, the sequence is really important. Otherwise, GUMS will not be able to correctly calibrate the parameters. Any questions? Anything that's not clear? So now we have Y, then C, and clearly here, the Y is a quantity or a value.
The Y is a quantity because we've already divided by the prices.
Exactly. So K and L are divided by their respective prices. So now the total supply of labor and capital are also quantities, okay? And the income is a value because we multiply quantities by their prices. So Y is defined based on KO and LO that are already quantities, meaning that YO is a quantity and CO is also a quantity, which is correct. Okay. One final thing for the initialization. For the initialization, we don't do it like this. I will send you the example in the chat box to see how we do the initialization. So that's the correct way we do the initialization.
I'm sorry, I
Just have
stopped
the index I after the L, not before the L. Okay? So that's the way we will calibrate, sorry, we will initialize all the variables. So that's the example of an endogenous variable, and this is the example of an exogenous variable, given the fact that I said that agriculture will be considered as the numeraire of the economy. So I will put agr, which is the label of the agricultural sector, between quotation marks, and we will see that once we insert this in GAMS, it will become red, showing that it's a text. We will continue the rest of the initialization, okay? And then I will ask you for 3 things to be prepared for, actually just 1 thing, but in order to do this, we'll need 3 things. So for Wednesday, you will have to work on this model and making it work. In order to make it work, okay, just it will give you the opportunity to practice. We just want to deactivate the end of the code, starting the part where we extract the part of Excel, okay? Meaning where we have the parameters, kvar, lvar, all this part until the end. And in order to do this, we write before the code on text. I sent you in the chat box, and at the end of text. So we will add these 2 commands at the end and at the beginning of the code. If we do this, we will see that everything will be deactivated. Okay? So what I will do, I will add here on text, everything will be deactivated. Until the end, I will have here off text. Okay? Why I'm doing this? Because I want first to make sure that my model is working. And by my model is working means that I have no syntax errors, I have no infeasibility, everything is correctly defined. Once we finish this and we make sure that the model is working, we can later add the second part. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing the first thing on Wednesday, and then after we correct this, we will run a simulation for a model, an economy with 2 sectors, and at the end we will be including the government and the rest of the world. So that's the program of the last day, in order to see how things will change. And then I hope we'll have time to show you a real model of GAMS with the real data, because this will show you to what extent, I mean, the basics that we have seen together will help you understand and run a normal model. So any question on what we have done today, anything that's not clear, any questions on what you have to do for Wednesday?
Yes, could you please share the screen you have last shared?
Okay. Here is it. So here we have the on text and the off text. Okay. Other questions?
Oui, donc pourquoi on utilise SAM en français, s'il vous plaît?
Non, je comprends pas la question.
Donc
Some
pourquoi on
SUM?
utilise pour la modélisation, pourquoi on utilise SAM?
La fonction SAM.
SUM. La fonction SAM, c'est ça, oui.
Ah oui, la fonction SAM, c'est pas, moi je pensais la matrice de comptabilité sociale. La SAM.
Ah, d'accord.
Non, non, mais donc SAM, je vais écrire ça dans la chat box. SAM, vous parlez de ce SAM.
Oui.
Ah oui, ok. Là, c'est pour additionner les différentes valeurs des secteurs pour avoir une valeur agrégée pour l'ensemble des secteurs. Et donc, l'offre du travail qui est répartie sur l'ensemble des secteurs sera additionnée du point de vue de la demande. Puisque chacun des secteurs demande le travail, on va additionner l'ensemble de la demande pour qu'elle soit équivalente à l'offre.
D'accord, OK.
Other questions?
So, Professor, for Wednesday, we have to run the program and see if it works or not. And
exactly, and you have to resolve everything, whether they are infeasible errors, whether they are, and you will follow the same steps. So you will have first to resolve all the syntax errors that are mentioned by GUMS and that are located in the code. Okay, and then once you do this, you will check the infeasibility. If you still have some infeasibility, then you have to check the calibration, you have to check the equations, and you have to check the initialization. Once you do this, we will check that the codes are correctly working on Wednesday. Then we will run a couple of simulations to see how things will change, and then we do the analysis and we move to the rest of the world and the government. So here is the initialization part, Samir. I'm sending it again. For the example of an endogenous variable and the example of an exogenous variable. So is that clear? Any question? Anything that's not clear?
I would ask you, sir, if there is difference between GAMS Studio and the GAMS EDE.
In terms of coding, there is no differences. Okay. Personally, I use GAMS IDE because I'm more familiar to it, and GAMS Studio in general is a bit, I would say, more advanced in terms of that are some commands that are implemented in it, and it's more like a drop-down menu rather than everything that you code manually. But it's more or less, in terms of coding, you can do everything either in GAMS IDE or in GAMS Studio.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question concerning the price fixing. So we will fix only the price of the agriculture.
Yes, and in this case, we will make the price of industry an endogenous variable that will be determined by the model.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so we'll stop here and we'll see you on Wednesday at 4 to correct your models. I hope it was useful. Take care and see you on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.